it's my pleasure today to introduce Ann Spalter, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her, and she is going to give us the scoop about what she's all about, what she's been doing lately, and how we all can engage with technology and art. So Ann is a digital media, mixed media artist, and authored the internationally taught textbook, The Computer in the Visual Arts. And that is published by Addison Wesley in 1999. Her artistic process combines a consistent set of personal symbols with a hybrid arsenal of traditional mark-making methods and innovative digital tools. A new body of work further developed at a winter 2019 residency at Mass MoCA combines artificial intelligence algorithms with oil paint and pastels. Ann is also noted for her large-scale public projects. MTA Arts commissioned Ann to create a 52-screen digital art installation called New York Dreaming, which remained on view in one of the most crowded commuter hubs at Fulton Center for just under a year. And her large-scale projects in 2019 included a 47,000 square foot LED video work on the Hong Kong harbor. And Ann's work is in the permanent collections of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the Albright Knox Art Gallery in Buffalo, New York. I'm an upstate New Yorker, so that's wonderful to hear. And the Rhode Island School of Design Museum in Providence, Rhode Island, and many others. Alongside her studio practice, Ann continues to lecture on digital art practice and theory. So this is such a fantastic background, Ann, and I'd love to have you start out with, how did this all kind of trajectory bring you to where you are today?
Well, it's a long trajectory because it began, as you mentioned, a little bit before the early 90s when I started using the computer in my artwork. And I think a theme that has run through all of it is sort of learning as you're going. And maybe that's just a hallmark of being in such a new field and one that's so technological. So almost every month there's some new technology or program that I encounter and learn how to use or somehow bring into my artwork. And I think that's part of the challenge and also part of the fun of the field. And I had an interest in computer art when I was in graduate school, started to use the computer in my work, but there were no courses I could take. And that's how I came to teach a class, because the head of my department said, well, there isn't one that you can be in, but you could run one. So it was a little bit like the one-eye leading the blind, but I began to teach, and if you've taught before, you know that you really learn things when you teach them. It's actually one of the best ways to learn things. And the more I taught, the more I realized I didn't know about the field, and especially the underlying technology of the field. And I ended up working in the computer graphics research group at Brown University for quite a while. And when I was there, finishing a textbook called The Computer and the Visual Arts, which sort of had everything that was in my brain at the moment put into 500 pages of words and pictures about the underlying technology and history and art historical and aesthetic concepts of computer art. And I've just been doing it ever since.
That's fantastic. And how has that driven your own personal artistic practice as well?
It's been a huge force in my practice. That weird moaning is my dog, in case you're wondering what that sound is. A big basset hound. I think a lot of my work shows modern landscapes and modern elements, and having to create them with the computer and envision them with the computer has just been a good fit. So I use this kind of personal iconography, which includes these modern things like airplanes and highways. I often take photos out of my car, outside of an airplane window or helicopter windows, and then using technology to realize them is just another way of making them more modern and having, I think, a very contemporary perspective on them.
That's very interesting. And in your bio, AI is mentioned, artificial intelligence and algorithms. And I know that many of us out there, especially artists, technology and math and algorithms and things like that are like, woo, time out. Especially since you teach it, Can you give our listeners a bit of insight of maybe where they could start to learn about artificial intelligence, where it doesn't make them feel, oh my God, and run away from it, but something to explore?
Yeah, I'll actually show some software that I'm using that does not require the artist person using it to know any math or even really understand the concepts. But just for your listeners, an algorithm is a fancy word for a recipe, a set of rules or steps that you take to make something happen. So it doesn't need to sound maybe so frightening as it does. So when an artist uses an algorithm, it can be that it's going to draw a line from one point to another based on certain input or random variables, but it's just a list of instructions for, in the case of artists making an image. And the AI algorithms are very complicated, so I barely understand how those work. But if I can screen share, I'll show you some software that all your viewers can also use.
That'd be great. Yeah, I was just going to say, take it away, really.
I had to close down. Okay, I've been using this program called Playform, and it's purposely built to be a tool for artists to use artificial intelligence algorithms. And there are several different algorithms or a way that you can use different methods for creating new images with AI, and you can choose them. This is one of the earliest ones that I did, and it kind of morphs one set of images into another. And what's actually going on is a little bit more complicated. And just to show you the images I started with, these were from my Instagram, and they don't seem to be loading, but you can see them there, or on my Instagram. And I took images that were circular, and then I had plain images from the web, which also aren't showing up, but you can see them small there. And the algorithm basically starts with the circle images, and it keeps changing them to look more and more like the plane images. And its goal is actually to create a new plane based on the ones that are there, in whatever way it interprets planes to be. And you can see the process through each iteration, which is sort of a run through the algorithm. It starts out looking very circular, although it immediately takes the colors from the photographs. And then you get a little more variation in the form and more. And it began to create these kind of bizarre shapes that to me look like spaceships and airplanes. Obviously, if it were really successful, it would make a thing that looked like a photo of an airplane, but one you hadn't seen before. And you may have seen data sets like that online where you see profile pictures of people, and the people don't really exist, but they look like completely realistic photos. So it wasn't really successful in making a new airplane, but it made all these really cool things that I thought, wow, I would have been very happy if I came up with this composition on my own. Now, it was a strange experience, like working with a partner in the studio who was making compositional suggestions, but they come out very low resolution. Right now, if you use the program, actually things are higher resolution than this, but in the beginning, they were only 256 pixels across, which is quite small. So I had created all these images and wanted to make them into artworks, but they were like little postage stamps. And they eventually became, this is the last installation that I did before everything shut down. This was at Spring Break 2020 in New York City. And each of these oil paintings is based on one of these little compositions. So it was kind of a very high-tech process, but it had a very low-tech, old-fashioned resolution to it. Mm-hmm. And often my work does things like that, where I combine computer technology with traditional tools and the skills that I learned in art school. And I am currently working, I did a bunch of videos of boats, which I can show later if we have time, but what I'm working on right now with a slightly different algorithm called Freeform, you only give it one image set. And my image set was just pictures of gems that I found on the web. And that it started creating these new kind of alien looking gems. that I'm obsessed with. And they're a little bit higher resolution. I still do some processing afterward, but I'm hoping to make prints from them. And you can see them growing and changing with each iteration. But I just thought it made really cool, kind of beautiful new structures.
Oh, yes.
So anyone can use Playform, so I encourage everyone to go check it out. And I've been using another company's website as well called Night Cafe. And this one is faster to use because you only put in a few images, so you don't have to collect the whole image set or find a data set of images. It's all works with an algorithm called style transfer, where you put the style of some images onto your input image. So my original image was just a photo from the web. And then the styles I put in were my own pastel drawing. That was the whole thing for this one, actually. Sometimes I add more than one style image, but it made this cool highway that looked like I had drawn it with pastels. And this one I used a graphite image. So this was one of my crypto art pieces, which I'll talk about in a second. And this is a drawing I did of a cow. I think these two things couldn't be further apart, really, but that it made a cool graphite drawing of that photograph. So this is also freely accessible, and anyone can go play around with it, making new cities and things. So these are all things that I'm working on. And then the gems and some of those other pieces that you saw, I've been putting online as crypto art pieces. And what that means is that they are essentially like little pieces of cryptocurrency, but instead of being interchangeable for any other piece, like one Bitcoin is interchangeable for any other Bitcoin, they're unique. And that's why they're also sometimes referred to as non-fungible tokens. So they're tokenized images, they're kept track of on the blockchain.
Oh, interesting.
And let's just show one. This has birds. They fly back and forth. They're like little. They're kind of like super high-tech GIFs. So just little loops. There's a file size of it to upload on the site. And then, unlike in the traditional art world, you can see when it was created. You always see what site it was created on. You can see if someone bought it. You can see for how much money. And it's very different from looking at artwork in a gallery where most of those things are hidden from you. It's also nice because if you go just to the website in general, one like Super Rare, you can scroll through and look at tons of things. And if you like one, you can make a bid on it. Like this one's super cool. You can make a bid on it. Some have set prices. And then if you buy it, it's instantly yours. You don't have to wait for shipping or anything. And the artist instantly gets paid, which is also extremely different from the traditional art world.
Fantastic.
So I don't know, do you have any specific questions about NFT art, or I can just show some more pieces? Or?
Yeah, I think I would like you to share, what you've been doing and some of your work, and I think that would also continue to show others, how they can engage with this realm, and maybe along the way you can give us some anecdotes, maybe some lessons learned that could be some great takeaways for
the crypto art thing in the beginning, if you decided to get into it and make your own or even buy artwork that's on the blockchain, it is very confusing in the beginning. Someone at Super Rare held my hand sort of through all of the steps where I kept saying, I don't understand this. I'm really lost here. So even for those of us who are pretty technologically literate, there are many steps to opening up the proper accounts and moving money out of your bank account and translating it into one of the cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, which is what's used on most of these, and then moving it back and forth between accounts. So be patient, I guess, is my advice with that. And there's usually instructions on the different websites, or you can look it up online. And once you do it, it doesn't seem that bad. But the first time, expect it to be a little bit bewildering.
I could imagine.
That would be my caveat. So this one was created with the Playform program. It's sort of going through all the iterations of making lighthouses. And this was a combination of lighthouses and rockets. No, it doesn't have sound. But I really like the way they're sort of like they're all sort of like gem-like little loops that play. I haven't seen many long videos, probably in part because of the file size limitations. And I started out on Super Rare. I'm also on this cool site called Viv3. I'll show a piece from here. So this is also Super Rare, Playform created video based on highway images. I did the audio, and then I did a bunch of video overlays on it. And it just loops around and around. That loop is a little bit longer. Some are just still images. So this one was created with that Night Cafe program, and it was a photograph of palm trees and then combined with the style of a pastel drawing. And I would say this hasn't happened to me anytime recently, thank goodness, but also if you embark on this, make sure to write down and save all of your passwords, especially for your cryptocurrency wallet. Because if you lose those, unlike Bank of America, where you can call up and say, hey, I lost my password, and answer a few security questions, your currency and your artwork will be gone forever if you lose your password.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I saw that in the news recently about...
Right, a guy who lost like $70 million.
Yeah, wow.
I don't have that problem, but... Right, I mean, crazy things can happen. So you get like 12 secret words you can put in to reset your password, and I have them down everywhere because I'm so certain I might lose them.
Good advice. Good advice.
There is also a site called OpenSea. Where you can see pretty much everything that's been made. So even if like I create something on Super Rare, you can see it here, and you can put up your own artwork here without having to go through a selection process if you want to get started right away. As a result of that, there's a whole really wide range of the things that are on it. Mm-hmm. From these sort of, like cards, sort of graphic design, illustration, but also some this is really cool, some cool artwork. And I've just recently become involved with what I think is going to be a very important new approach to all of this that combines generative artwork. So that's when you have an algorithm that makes an image, and then when you change the variables, it makes another image. And that's how early computer graphics artists worked with the computer. And they would make a lot of variations and look through them and then choose one that they liked, or a few that they liked. So on this site, artists submit, instead of submitting an image, they actually submit their software.
Oh, wow.
Along with some images so you can see what it might make.
Okay. So the software itself is almost like an piece of art or creation.
Yeah, it truly is. And if you decide to buy one, you don't know what it will look like. So you can see the previous results, and then if you choose to buy one, you pay, and then some random variables are fed into the program, and a new image is created. So I think that's super cool. It really takes advantage of the internet, of computers, and a different way of thinking about art generation. That appeals to me a great deal. And there's some really beautiful things on here, so I encourage people to check it out.
Okay, we have 3 minutes. check out for this Zoom event, because the recording I have is only allows for 45 minutes.
Okay. So, well, this is fascinating, Anne. Could you tell us a little bit what's coming up for you and how people can get in touch with you?
Yep, absolutely. These are just some of the paintings from that show. I currently have a show up at the Boston Cyber Arts Gallery in Jamaica Plain, Boston, and it's called In the Future, Everything Will Be Perfect. And I don't have images of it up on my website yet, but if you look on my Instagram, you'll see a bunch of press and images.
Great. Could you tell us what your website is and your Instagram handle?
Yeah, my website is all the same. It's really easy to remember. It's just my name, Anne Spalter, all one word, all lowercase. So the website is annespalter.com. Instagram and Twitter are just at Anne Spalter.
And Anne with a E, A-N-N-E.
Yep, S-P-A-L-T-E-R.
That's fantastic. Well, I wish we had more time to speak with you and see more, but I'm sure we'll have a part 2 at some point and learn more about what's happening for you in your creative world and in the AI and art intersection world. So thank you so much for being with us today, and happy creating out there, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
For having me.